Belize is littered with reminders of its British colonial heritage. After the country achieved independence in 1981, British forces remained to prevent an invasion by neighbouring Guatemala. In the years that followed, many British infantry battalions rotated through Belize, fully integrating with the indigenous Belize Defence Force, the BDF.
Very early there were people coming back from the Falklands, for example, I think two para, talking about the value of fire and manoeuvre, because they had actually just done it.
In 1993, Britain's operational role evolved into a training presence known as BATSUB. At the same time, the BDF expanded, becoming wholly responsible for the country's defence.
I think the BDF have stepped up and taken on their role they needed to take on for the defence of the country, which they've done, and they're now very professional.
Today, BATSUB and the BDF still work alongside each other, sharing Price Barracks, and the BDF continues to benefit from its British ties. These soldiers from the Belize Defence Force have just spent 6 weeks on a training course that the British Army have designed for them, and British soldiers have come out here to teach it. And it's a perfect example of the close relationship that exists between the two armies here in Belize.
We are surrounded by countries that have professional armed forces. We, the Belize Defence Force, the only defence that the nation has.
After more than 3 weeks in the field, these trainee platoon commanders are wet through and they're exhausted. But any of them will tell you this is fantastic training, and this is an incredible place to do it.
This has helped me enormously. Simply the amount of assets and the amount of people you can get also working towards you and supporting you here means that the training is so realistic.
Breccon's hilly, wet and cold. This place is sort of much more hilly. Like Brecon on steroids is the cliche.
The training area includes not only primary jungle, but also vast, open, undulating terrain. Exercise, the bullets are live rounds, which adds to the realism.
It just gives the guys that little bit of edge about engaging and having to realise that left and right of them are actually soldiers, and if they switch off for one moment, it could obviously cause an accident.
20% of the young officers on this course will be in Afghanistan within the next few months, leading soldiers on operations. This has been their chance to work with soldiers for the first time, many of them fresh from theatre themselves.
With these guys, we've really got to know them, understand how soldiers work, what you need to do for them and what they can do for you, and also where the relationship lies between you and your soldiers.
It's quite funny because you never really see commanders in that much stress, but it's been good, and hopefully all of them will pass and become good commanders.
The landscape is unfamiliar to the soldiers, but then that's the whole point of coming to Belize.
Just look around, it looks like a Vietnam film, doesn't it? It's pretty sweet, really. Awesome. The thing is, it's so challenging compared to what you've got in the UK, what I've experienced anyway. You've also got the heat that you have to contend with, so it's about managing your water. It's basically something very, very different.
Along with a fifth of the other young officers on this course, in just a few months' time, Lieutenant Westlake will be commanding troops for real on operations in Afghanistan.
This, I hope, has prepared me for that. I think certainly the heat that we've had to contend with here will set me up nicely. And to be honest, it's been hard graft for 1 month. It's been constant, and I think it's the first time I've experienced that. So, yeah, fingers crossed I'm prepared.
The jungle may not look a lot like Afghanistan, but the training team have conjured up a compound so the troops can practice live firing inside a building.
It's to replicate what they may have to do in a compound in Afghanistan. Tight corners, closed doors, breaking into the building, enemy at close quarter, i.e., 5 metres, having to engage and having to be fully aware of everyone is within that compound, because on operations there's no second chances.
On another part of the training area, a casualty is evacuated by helicopter, with live firing going on around. It's a situation the soldiers will face on operations, and it makes for a realistic battlefield simulation.
For this reason, there are 5,000 British troops stationed here, and observation posts line the Guatemalan border. All movements on the other side are monitored in these lonely outposts. Our presence is mainly for deterrent purposes, but just back from the border, Harriers practice with live 1,000-pound bombs. There are perks for the lads, though. On this coral island, Royal Marines monitor the progress of Guatemalan shipping. It's not too strenuous a job.
BATSUB injects around £3 million a year into the local economy. The enduring British presence also offers security, and for many it's unthinkable they should ever leave.
They are here to stay. They may change from time to time, but they won't be moving out now anytime soon.
I wouldn't say that will become an attack, but I feel much more secure with them here.
Veteran Bob Stevens thinks next year's BATSUB drawdown will be detrimental. Only a tiny British contingent will remain behind, with some very limited training.
Most Belizeans, especially the older generation, they remember the British being here. They remember the organisation and the administration, and they still respect Britain for that, and they respect the British Army being here. And it gives them a sense of comfort, the British Army being here, there's no doubt about that.
Over the years, many thousands of British troops have served in Belize or taken part in the jungle training with BATSUB, 9,000 of them in the last 3 years alone.
Many of your viewers, listeners, who will have deployed here will have many pleasurable memories of deploying out here. And hopefully those will in effect continue, because the British relationship and BATSUB deploying out here will continue.
The tiny Central American country of Belize has been significant to our armed forces for decades. A former British colony, it achieved independence in 1981, but for more than a decade after that, British troops protected it from the threat of a cross-border Guatemalan invasion. By 1994, that threat had faded and the main British force left, leaving behind a training unit known as BATSUB. With access to 9,000 square kilometres of primary jungle and open plains, many thousands of infantry troops have undergone the tough training Belize is famous for. But by next August, BATSUB in its current form will no longer exist.
The significant majority of BATSUB personnel will be moving on, including the helicopters, and we will go down to a much smaller establishment that is able to maintain our presence within Price Barracks, and there will be some limited training that will continue.
BATSUB has escaped total closure, but only around 10 military staff and 60 locally employed civilians will remain behind to look after the real estate. Price Barracks is shared with the Belize Defence Force, but essentially the British part of the base and the training it facilitates is being mothballed. For the troops passing through, the training prepares them not only for potential jungle warfare, but also for whatever other operations might be thrown at them, including Afghanistan. Replacing the quality of training they get here could prove difficult.
We've really clicked, I think, here in Belize, so it is a pity. And we're looking at alternatives, because what we don't want to do is just admit defeat and say, well, we can't go to Belize, therefore we'll have to go back home. We are still looking for somewhere where we can present the same challenges.
25 Flight is already scaling down what it does. The 212 Bell helicopters no longer operate as a flying ambulance for the local population. For the time being, they are still assisting the Belize Defence Force. Belize is also renowned for its world-class adventure training facilities. Sailing, snorkelling and diving. This is important downtime after weeks spent in harsh jungle conditions. It's the best the Caribbean has to offer, with specialist instructors at hand.
Activities like this aren't just about having fun. Over the years, they've also helped soldiers adjust and recover after spending months on the front line in places like Afghanistan.
And with the army at the moment, it's a lot of work. And where you used to get a lot more adventure training than you do now. But adventure training is really key, I think. Because where you're all working together, but instead of working together, you're on the front together.
If in due course we needed to come back, then we might be able to, in strength, and also continuing to do some jungle training here on a fairly routine basis, but less than currently is the case.
At the airport, one Harrier stands as a reminder of the past. It's a legacy which won't be forgotten anytime soon. Someday it might well be needed again, but for now the sun is setting on British Army training Belize.